Welcome back to Cinema Alley, the show where we talk about your favorite movies and their stories. I am your host, James Howell, and always with me here is my co-host, Chris Cupp. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Folks, we're covering one of the best screenwriters, at least in my opinion, in America. Screenwriters, really, because this was more of a partner duo, and I really, really enjoy a lot of the content that these guys had made. We're talking Billy Wilder and I.A.L. Diamonds, Some Like It Hot. Chris, what do you think about Some Like It's Hot?
It is a very fun movie, and I feel like a lot of movies like this don't really get made anymore. It's kind of real characters, like real situations, and they're actually like played as real situations, but like these characters make it light and fun. But it's a great script.
I do agree. There are no films that are really made this way because if you look at comedies back then, especially stuff from Billy Wilder, or really when you kind of think about anything from the back then days, because some of them actually do age pretty well. You could still watch them today and you can still relate uh, if they have a very, very good, core story structure element,
Yeah.
and are obviously super related. Believe it or not, I know some kids today, or just some people, they don't watch a lot of classic films because they deem it old. It's like, believe it or not, the issues that these people were suffering in the 40s or the 20s or the 50s or whatever decade, it's like we're all still suffering from these issues. Uh, it's a human thing. We all go through these. It's like just because one era dealt with them doesn't mean that we're not going to sit there and deal with them 50 years from now. It's all recycled. Uh,
Doesn't
but
matter
yeah,
if it's the 1920s or the 2020s.
exactly. And oh my god, with this script, I had so much fun. I couldn't put it down. This was one of those scripts that when writing or not writing, when reading it, you you just have fun with it. It's almost as much as having fun with watching the movie. At least to me, I did not see this movie. I've seen clips of it through documentaries and behind the
Yeah.
scenes stuff like that. I've seen that with the behind the scenes
Yeah,
um,
always seeing
stuff.
the one scene where they're like riding in the boat, and he's like trying to tell him like, "I'm a man." And he's like, "Yeah, nobody's perfect."
Yes,
Like that's the one scene I'm
with
always familiar with.
Osgood, and
Yeah,
I think it's Jerry, if I
yeah,
remember right. I'm trying to look back at my notes.
Geraldine.
Yeah, Gerald. Well, no, it was only Geraldine for like two scenes, and then he
Yeah,
was Daphne.
yeah.
Uh, yeah,
I like
Jerry,
Daphne
played
better.
by Jack Lemmon. The Jack Lemmon. Like I think this guy right next to Tony Curtis. This guy makes the movie. You know, Jack Lemmon. We, me and Chris's generation, we grew up seeing this man in Grumpy Old Men with Walter Matthau. That's how we were introduced to Jack Lemmon, at
Yeah.
least. Or unless did you see Jack Lemmon in anything else before you saw Grumpy Old Men?
Not really. I mean,
Yeah, so that's probably the defining moment to most people of today, from like the kids of the 90s. We saw the end of the friendship of Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. Like they didn't have a fallout, but the buddy films that they did together. So it's nice going back and seeing where did Jack Lemmon start, and looking through his catalog of films. He's kind of like the comedy version of oh my god, what's his name? First name's Dick. Uh, he was in Gremlins. He played the neighbor, the one that was always against the foreign cars.
oh crap, man.
I think
I
it's
don't know.
Dick Smith. Dick Smith. I think it's Dick Smith. I'm googling right now, and I
All right.
really hope. No, no, it's not Dick Smith. It's uh I have to I I
Stay
I
with
have to
us,
look it up.
folks.
It's Dick Miller.
James
There we go.
is.
I was
Yeah.
about to Google Gremlins dicks, and I was like, wait, this is Google. Anything can happen.
Yep. Was it Rule 34? Like, oh no. Oh.
Is that what Rule 34 actually means? I hear people
I,
use it, but I never really
Now I
decided
have
to
to go.
look it up.
I make sure it's
You're gonna
Rule
Google. So
34.
yeah.
Gonna get viruses on my computer. Oh
so
yeah,
so yeah, Jack Lemmon
back
is
when I
like the
think.
Dick Miller of his kind of era, because he was in a lot of comedies, always playing. He always kind of played more the funny guy. He was that kind of way in comedy. So he did have like some serious roles in more of his later years. I think he was in 12 Angry Men as well, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've seen
It's
that,
around that time
the
period too.
original.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's around that time period of him. But anyway, so yeah, it's like a wonderful Tony Curtis. Which, if anyone knows Tony Curtis, like we obviously know his ex-wife Janet Leigh, and those two will create one of the best scream queens in all of Hollywood and film with Jamie Lee Curtis. And
Yeah, I think Tony
um,
Curtis is the one I was more familiar with when I started the movie. I was like, yeah,
really,
I've seen him in a few things early on. And didn't he have a? I mean, I might be thinking of the wrong show, but was he
Tony
the?
Curtis did have a TV show.
Yeah, what was it called? It was the one with
I think it was called the
their.
Tony Curtis Show.
Was it okay? I think.
I believe so. It was because almost everyone that was big back in the old school Hollywood, they had their own TV show.
Yeah.
He was on the Ed Sullivan Show as himself for like 3 episodes. He did McCoy, which was a season regular. I'm actually trying to look. Rowan and Martin's Laughing. He did a couple episodes. I'm actually trying to find. Maybe what you looked. Maybe what you saw was. I don't know, something else. Series regular, 24 episodes. There was The Persuaders. That's probably not it, but I do know like a lot of people around the 50s and 60s, if they were big, they had something like their name show, like
Yeah.
um the Ed Sullivan Show, the Jay Leno Show. Well, Jay Leno wasn't 50s, but you guys get the drift of what we're going. But yeah, these are like iconic actors with iconic filmmakers. They weren't iconic, I think, at their time. They were all still carving out their legacy, but we look at them as today as icons of film, very much. Tony Curtis is kind of a it's kind of like a fuzzy blot on childhood. I don't really think I saw any of Tony Curtis's films, so I do want to go on and say this is my very first Tony Curtis movie. If I believe so. And and I was reading an article on the Criterion Channel about this movie because I was looking up a little bit more backstory about this before we jump right into Billy Wilder and his co-writer. Um, and that the story of this is definitely something that I misinterpreted reading the script because of how these guys treat women, and then when they go and they switch the roles just to evade being killed by the mob in Chicago,
Yeah, because they're
that they dress like
womanizers.
women and then they get treated like women and they don't really like it. But also too, at the same time, Tony Curtis is donning another disguise.
Yeah.
Which again, that takes talent. You're a dude playing a dude disguised as a lady who is disguised as another dude. Um, Robert Downey Jr. wasn't the first. I'm pretty sure Tony Curtis wasn't either, but this one right here is as far back as I can recollect.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that layers, and it's almost like, oh, I want to be with this woman, but I can't let her know who I really am because she looks for this type of guy.
Yeah. It's like
And,
white girls.
yeah. And what was it? It's I kind of almost misconstrued the text of thinking, oh, this is a story about men learning to respect women. But in all honesty, there's not a moment in the
No,
story that actually has that self-realization.
they
It's
don't really
not
change.
Tootsie, where yeah, they don't really change. They
Jerry
just
definitely like has a realization like, oh man, this
yes,
is not fun for women.
yeah. Jerry's more or less kind of like the viewer consciousness um of the story. But yeah, like this isn't like Tootsie, where Robin Williams plays a character that does not respect women, and he loses everything, and the only way he can get this job is if he is a woman. So he cross dresses, and he learns, oh wow, it's actually harder to be a woman in show business, and then he has a lot more respect for them. Or he, for one, it's not a lot more, it's just he has respect now in general for them. So it's nothing kind of like that. But looking at the article sat there and said that the story of this is legit just having fun. There were no, I guess, hidden meanings of um you know uh LGBTQ relationships and all that other stuff. It wasn't about respecting women, which again, I don't know how. like I know watching the movie right before we record this, I start picking up is like, oh, maybe this isn't really a story about being in woman's shoes. It's like somehow I miss I miss
No,
that point
because they're
in the
not
script
like trying to get their job. They're not doing the job because they need the money. They're doing the job because it's the only way
to
they
save
can
their
get away from the
life.
mobsters,
Yeah.
and they need to a disguise and rolling with a
And
bunch
then
of
they just have
women.
fun. They
Yeah,
just have fun for the rest of the movie.
I
That's
mean
pretty much it.
they're surrounded by a bunch of beautiful women, and guys are gonna do what guys are gonna do. Trying to get have some fun and get a little nifty.
Exactly. And I haven't heard that since Limp Bizkit.
Yeah,
But yeah, so when I read this, like, it didn't deter me from my love for this film. Like, I still love this movie. This movie has a lot of really great one-liners. Like, nobody's perfect, but there's actually one outside of that final line of the script. There is another line in this movie I absolutely love, and it's a line that Tony Curtis tells Sugar, played by
yeah.
Marilyn Monroe. It's
The
um,
goddess
it's not
Marilyn
it's not
Monroe.
how long you wait, it's who you're waiting for.
Mm.
And I thought, like, wow, that's a
Smooth.
really good line.
Yep.
There's like a ton of great lines in this stuff, but let's kind of pull it back a little bit because we did really kind of jump into the analyzing of the script and our favorite moments of enjoying. Folks, if you gotta
Fantasizing about
pause this because
Marilyn
we will talk
Monroe.
spoilers. We will talk spoilers. So if you want to enjoy the script, we actually picked up the script off of ScriptLabs.com. You guys can find it right there. Just look up Some Like It Hot. Go dig into the screenplays. You guys will freaking find it. Read that script and then go watch it on Vudu or whatever site that you have to go to watch this. I think it's on Criterion Channel. Criterion, God, so expensive, but man, I love the films that are on there. They're
Yeah.
amazing, amazing films. But anyway, I'm trailing off, and I'm doing my best to stay on track. Um, but yeah, pause this, read the script, watch the movie, come back, and you can follow along as we assess this. Billy Wilder was a writer first, and then became a director. He worked his way up. One of the biggest projects he worked on before becoming a writer director was 1939's Ninochka, which starred Greta Garbo, who was a huge icon at the time. Back then, when actors, I think, were treated a little bit more bigger than today's actors, I don't know. I think that could just be like an opinion
I mean,
of
no,
me and
like
everything.
back then, yeah, actors were
I,
like the
I really
golden
do think that they were on a
goose.
higher pedestal compared, like, today they're more human, so you don't really give them
Yeah.
so much shit. But like back then, they were up on a high pedestal that even something as like two actors getting divorced, that could break and shatter a career, one or two, maybe even
Yeah.
both. So they were really put up there in a high pedestal. And I do advise, like, literally watching any documentary that talked about a certain starlet or star. You'll sit there and you'll see the hard life, and then why most of these guys got into drugs and alcohol, because it's just so damn hard. They just want to make movies, but people are like, you gotta be our
There's a lot
idol.
of
And
pressure to like live up to a perfect image to sell movies for the studios,
especially for
and
Judy Garland,
yeah,
that
that's
story
just
right there, god, that's heartbreaking.
they're like actors that like fall from grace and like they die in motels, like doing drugs and with dead hookers and
Yeah.
shit. Like it wasn't pretty. And I mean,
Carradine died in the 2000s. You know that, right?
no, I'm thinking of someone else, but
Oh, are you? Oh,
yeah.
okay. The
What's
way
his
you
name?
described it, I was like, yeah, David Carradine died like in 2010s. It's like,
The
rest
main
in peace to
character
Dave.
from Hogan's Heroes. I think he died in
Really?
yeah, I think that's how he died. He
Oh my
was in
god.
like a hotel. I think someone murdered him actually because he like owed money to somebody.
Maybe we need to
Bob
actually start
Crane.
like
Yeah.
maybe we need to start a second podcast where we cover, like, Hollywood murders and mysterious deaths. Because, like, I'll do that. I'll do it in a heartbeat. The murder of or I think they consider it a suicide of George Reeves. the actor that played Superman before Christopher Reeves did. God,
Yeah.
that's a whole mystery. I've listened to podcasts on that, and it's like, God, I can't believe that happened. And it's been covered so much. But either way, back on track. So we're gonna have this a lot. I am so sorry, folks. But yeah, so Billy Wilder, Ninochka, that's kind of like that was like his shooting star, from my understanding, to stardom. And he started doing films like Double Indemnity in 1944, Sunset Boulevard 1950, The 7 Year Itch, which was the first time he worked with Marilyn Monroe. That was in 55, and then he would work with her 4 years later for Some Like It Hot in 59. Um, and where Some Like It Hot was not the first time that him and Diamond worked together, but they worked on one called Love in the Afternoon in 57. So 2 years predates Some Like It Hot, and they've done so many films afterwards, like that with Some Like It Hot, The Apartment's one we got to cover later on, man. We just got to cover it. It's such a great story. So like these guys were a really really good buddy pairing. Um, and back then that was super huge in Hollywood. If you had like a buddy pairing and writer director, or like just actors all in general, like to me I feel like those are the powerhouse. And I feel like today's Hollywood tries to do that a lot. Like that there are certain directors that will only work with these certain actors, like Del Toro and Perlman. um
Christopher Nolan, and what's the guy who's starting in the
Cillian Murphy.
Oppenheimer movie? Yeah, Cillian Murphy. You
Yeah,
always
because
see
he's
him in
almost in
movies.
everyone, whether he's the main character or a support. Cillian Murphy's in almost a lot of what was it? I think post Batman Begins 2005. I think after that, I think that's when him and Cillian were collaborating a lot.
Yep.
Um, you kind of look at The Rock and Kevin Hart. They kind of had like a good couple of years doing
Gene
buddy stuff from
Wilder,
like
Mel Brooks.
Jumanji. Yeah, Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks. That's another iconic pairing.
Yeah.
But this is the era of filmmaking, though, that I absolutely love. Like, yeah, there may have been a lot of misrepresentation and a lot of um, very offensive either jokes or interpretations, but there are other films outside of that to me I still think have aged very very well, and I do believe that this movie in a sense has aged well. There are some things in it that did not age well, but I think what this is a fairly fresh film. Would you say? I wouldn't say it's rotten. Not judging
I
by the
mean,
Rotten Tomato meter or anything.
as in good, or yeah, I
As
mean,
in
it's a
good,
great
like
film.
like
Yeah,
good, like it holds up in
it's a great
quality to
movie. Like
today.
you can watch it like any time period. Like honestly, like I feel like people who would nitpick it and like try to tear it apart are the same ones that like just don't like fun. you know,
That's what
just
the
like
movie's about. The movie's about fun.
the social justice warriors will come out of the woodwork like, oh, they're trying to hook up with these girls that they're hiding with, and like yeah, they're dudes. Like, what do you think they're gonna like? They're not supposed to, and that's where the comedy comes from. Like, they're supposed to be lying low, and
it,
if
it it's
the
it's how it's
girls
all
find
set
out,
up. It's set
yeah,
up
like,
in still of a way that I don't find it too distasteful. Like really, I don't find it distasteful at all. But it's not like it's completely horrendous. It's not like The Night Stalker or anything like that. It's nothing on
that's a
that.
totally
That
different thing.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing.
Totally
But like
different thing.
but Richard Specs did go into a college. That's a different podcast. Either way, but still, that's going towards a real dark tunnel. So yeah, so we're gonna jump into this hero's journey, the story of Some Like It Hot, which again, this story has so many layers and elements to it. It's so smart, it's so fun. I guarantee you, folks, you guys pick it up, and if you love comedy and you just love just to have fun, this is a script right here you'll never get bored with. You'll always come back and find something interesting about it. And very much like how we said, RoboCop was such a high stakes, punch right in. We're in a chase. We're getting to know the world that we're in. We do it right here because this comedy starts off as a very dark gangster film. You got this hearse coming around. It's like, oh, what's going on? There's these men here with spats. The films. I guess it's supposed to be Al Capone, because I do have to give a little bit of backstory that is that this film is loosely inspired by the St. Valentine's Day Massacre of 1929, which is funny because this movie was released in 1959. So it's almost like a 30-year, you know,
Yeah.
anniversary,
It's usually
almost in
how
a
time period
sense.
movies go. They usually just go 30 years back.
Yeah. And so we got Spats with his guys. They're in this hearse and they're driving along, and you're thinking like, oh, okay, someone passed away. That's kind of sad, but these guys are pretty menacing for a freaking funeral. And then there's police chase and police cars coming after them. And again, this hearse is like some of the best shit ever. Like they pull a string, and apparently from like this little um dressing that's up on the ceiling of the car, like you have like shotguns and machine guns attached, and they're
Yeah.
just pulling us out. It's like, dude, this feels like a Batman movie right from the get-go. This feels like something
Mobsters
Batman
had to
or
be
comic
creative
book.
back then, man.
Exactly. And they're opening fire. We had this chase scene. Spats and them are trying to shake the cops off their tail. There's gunfire going around. The casket gets a couple of shots in, and you're already thinking, God, this dude's dead. He's super dead now. It's like if they were ever thinking about smuggling a guy out, this dude's dead. Um, and once they evaded the police, we look at the holes, and the holes are leaking. And you're like, what the fuck is this? And they lift it up, and it's revealed that these guys are smugglers. Because obviously, this is during the Prohibition era.
Yep.
So these mobsters are smuggling alcohol, and there's bottles upon bottles of whiskey and probably bourbon and who knows what all sorts meant. And they go and they drive to a funeral. Uh,
The
I guess you would say like a funeral home.
yeah, it's just
It,
funeral
it
parlor, but it's
yeah, like a
just
there
a
you go,
front for the
parlor.
speakeasy.
Because about to say a parlor and a hall are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Parlors, I always thought that's where they go to buy the casket, to look around to browse the goods. Where the hall is where they actually hold the ceremony. So yeah, it's like a parlor, which is a front to a hidden club where you can get all that nice liquor that the prohibition cops and everything don't want you to have.
It's not.
Uh,
It's coffee. It's just
it's
coffee.
coffee. It's
Just
coffee. We
coffee.
serve coffee. Yeah. Oh my god, I'm
Coffee,
so
sir.
sorry for those horrible accents, folks. You guys can go after Chris.
I'm not.
I'm innocent.
I regret nothing.
But yeah, like again, this film is super creative in how it hid things, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, these things were very much around during the Prohibition era. You had been very sneaky. I ended up learning a new thing. I forgot what was it. I learned somewhere, but it was supposed to be how the cops found moonshiners and people who were making alcohol illegally, because it was the chemicals that came out of, I guess, like whatever they were making it. They would obviously stick onto the trees, and it would make this special kind of I guess it's like a fungus, and like that's what cops would use during the Prohibition to track down who was making moonshine or illegal alcohol and everything. Literally, Mother Nature fucking tattletaled on you and everything. So yeah, I know. When I saw this, I was like, oh, that's pretty damn interesting. I did not know that. So yeah, we have this hidden club. We actually have one of the main, well, not main characters, but supporting characters, the cop that is going to bust this joint. He obviously knows how to get in. He got the code from Toothpicks. I forgot his last
Toothpick
name, but the cop
Charlie.
Toothpick Charlie. So they go and he
Toothpick
he
Charlie.
gets this from Charlie. He goes right in after Spats and them have already entered. It's obviously the police are monitoring, and they got they got setups everywhere. And so we just follow this cop as like he's enjoying himself. He's got a little cigar.
He goes in there and gets a little drink before he raids the place.
Right. But
That just
before we
shows
put
he's
this
just
shit
kind of
up,
like, hey, I'm gonna get a little something before I have to tear this
I'm
place down. You know?
I'm pretty sure for a cop at that time, a cop needed to drink every fucking now and then.
Yeah, and
I'm pretty sure it was much deserved. But this is where we get introduced to our main characters, Jerry and Joe, who are a saxophone player and a bassist. Um, they're just jamming. They're just musicians trying to sit there and make a living. They're trying to make a quick buck. They're trying to keep everything. They're trying to keep the lights on, rent. They've
they got
legit asked the
deaths
women for
everywhere.
money.
They borrow money from people. They borrow money from the girls, and they don't
Yeah,
plan on paying them back. They're kind of like
yeah,
they're the scumbags sort of the story. Like they are kind of scummy, but like they got
yeah.
heart and charm to them. So like you kind of root for them. Like, all right,
Exactly.
how are we gonna survive next week? You know, we're finally getting paid, but yeah, I
And then
mean,
and
the
then and then even
great
then
little
when they talk
introduction.
about their payment, you know, Jerry's over here like, you know, I need I need this I need a filling over here for a tooth. And he's like, "You're gonna sit there and waste your whole paycheck on your freaking tooth? Like, you know how selfish that is, you of it is to you." And then Joe's over here. It's like we owe money to all these Chinese lawyers that you know that the landlord keeps throwing at us to get us to pay back the back rent. And you know, apparently his answer to all this is like, I'm going to take your check and my check, and we're going to go to the dog races, and we're going to bet on this guy.
Yep.
And he's like, you're going to use my paycheck to freaking bet, you know, for all of this. And he's like, don't worry, I know a guy who can sit there and tweak the rabbit. And it's all like, oh my god. So obviously, playing in prohibition halls was not just the most corrupt thing. It's like we're gonna go gambling our paychecks or earnings and play that um that card of like, are we going to make back the money or are we going to lose it all? So obviously they live by the string of their teeth.
Yeah. I mean, Joe was definitely like definitely a little scoundrel, you know.
Oh, I believe so. And you know, when Jerry ends up noticing the cop who like blatantly just does not give two shits. He's over here, you know, for some reason he's patting down the bottom of his cigar, which I don't smoke cigars, so I don't know if that's a thing,
I
or
think
he was using
I think he was trying to get the ash out or something, or I don't know. I don't smoke either.
it was something like that. I'm pretty sure Professor Hilliard would explain because he's the cigar smoker, but
Yeah, I
he
think you have
uses
to
the
like
side of his
bite the
badge
end of it
and
and to get
yeah,
the smoke or the tobacco and nicotine in you, like more
yeah,
better.
and
You know?
he's just over here waving his fucking badge and no one's noticing, and it's hilarious. But Jerry notices, and Jerry looks at Joe, and you know they're like, "What?" And it's all like, you know, it's like I
It's
think
time
the
to get
place is
out of
gonna
here.
flood.
He's
Yeah,
about to
and
go
like they
south.
look at it, and legit no lie, they just quit playing. They just start packing their shit, and by the time that they're halfway there, like you know, the cops are already counting down from the clock, 3, 2, 1, and then bam, the whole place is getting raided. You know, everyone's being arrested, and Joe and Jerry were able to crawl out the back through like a small window from a back room,
Yep.
uh,
And
and
Spats and his boy just sitting there like, ah, just another
drinking
day.
milk.
Yeah.
And they even like ask like you spice your milk, and it's all like, you know, it's like you ain't got nothing on me, and it's all like Toothpick Charlie has best to say. And uh already already with this, you know, it's a very dark gangster film with obviously some comedic element starting the show. It's starting to really show its comedic charms the moment that Curtis and Lemon
Take you
are
downtown.
on the screen.
Talk to your
And
lawyers. These are my lawyers right here, and they're big four goons.
oh god, the goons are fucking something in this script. I
Ugly
love them.
motherfuckers, right?
Like like they're not the goons you see in typical films nowadays where they're stupid. You know, it's
Yep.
like these goons can like they can kill you.
Yeah.
These guys can kill you. And it's funny in certain scenes later on in the story with how they are, and it's like, oh my god, that's hilarious. But it's all like, I would never want to piss that fucker off. That dude looked
Yeah.
like he don't need a gun to kill me. He can do it with his bare
He
hands.
did.
Exactly. And Joe and Jerry they break the loose. The cop is quote unquote arresting Spats and his guys, and Joe and Jerry are already trying to sit there and think of a plan because they're not going to get paid because everyone got arrested. It was
Yep.
like, so what are we going to do for our payment? And like this is legit the ordinary world. This is all this happens, and we're still in the ordinary world. Our adventure has yet to freaking come until they realize that they have to go to the to I guess you can't say it's their employer. No, not really.
I think it's
It's
their
more like
agent. Like they go to like an
yeah,
agency building with different agents that like come up with jobs and stuff, and they like say,
exactly.
"Hey, who's looking for some musicians? We don't got nothing for you. We got nothing for you. You son of a bitch! What are you doing back here? You stood me up."
Yeah, so like their agent is like already trying to find a replacement saxophone and bass player for their all women band, Sweet Sue and the Society Syncopators, which they play the fast jazz
Yeah.
kind of music, which
And
Sh
she
I
offers
like
it
me some
to
slow.
kind of as a joke at first, like, "Hey, I
Yeah,
got a gig for you, but there you're not exactly the kind they're looking for, the kind of talent they're looking for." Like, "Oh, yeah, well, let's just dress up."
yeah, it's like you're built differently. It's like, what's
Yeah,
that supposed to mean? It's an all girls band. It's like we could dress like, and then like legit, the moment Jerry's getting ready to sit to say we can dress like women, and Joe's right there. It's like, no, we can't. And
yeah.
it's like, oh my god. So yeah, like they obviously have no money. They have to sit there and learn. There is a job offer that's like 100 miles
Mile
away or
away,
so,
yeah.
and it's supposed to be playing like a high school prom. And obviously Jerry looks at it as like we can't live off of just playing a one night stand. We need something like a tour.
Yeah,
We need something that is going to get us a really good paycheck and keep
need
the
a
money flowing
consistent
so we
paycheck.
don't lose.
Yep.
And Joe would much rather take that easy route than take the one that Jerry wants to do, of um of like, we need to get out of here. uh and of course Joe's over here, like, it's like, I know how we can get a car, and that leads us off to wrapping up a little bit, not a little bit of the first act a bit, because our heroes, because there's so much that happens. Like the call to adventure happens like really really quick. This job opportunity, Sue and them need two replacements. They got to be women. Joe and Jerry are jobless, but they fit the exact instrument, but not the right sex.
Yep.
And so Joe and them, they're gonna go. Smooth talks. I was gonna say schmooze or something like
Schmooze.
that. Schmooze.
You only
The
schmooze on the
the
weekends.
secretary that works for the agency, to take her car and everything, and because apparently Joe and her were an item, and already we sit there and see that Joe doesn't really quite respect her, because he stood her up so many times. He's only interested in himself, and it's not so much like a selfish, like, well, yeah, it's selfish, but it's not like a kind of like a vanity thing, like a narcissist. He's not so much of that. It's more of, I just live by myself. I'm not gonna let anyone
He
hold me
looks
back.
out for number one. You know,
Exactly. It's him and it's Jerry. It's always been probably him and Jerry for years. Nothing's gonna split him and Jerry from what they do, because they have fun. They
yep.
have fun, and that's exactly what the whole point of the movie is. We just like to have fun. And so when they go to the garage to go pick up the car, where Toothpick Charlie and his men are at, they just so help to work there. Spats comes by and legit shoots up Charlie in this gang.
Well,
Because
Charlie ratted on them. Can't
yeah,
help it.
like your typical gangster film, there's that one guy that rats, and of course he's always like, I know nothing. Um, and again, I love that for one, they turn still what was grisly but still somewhat comedic into a deadly scene, because this is supposed to be the mimic of the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Like, this is the scene all in general that it happens, and right when Spats has taken the machine gun to finish off Charlie, after they already found Joe and Jerry, because they messed up, dropped the little gas thing, and it got the attention of the gangsters.
Yep.
And they're all like, we didn't see nothing. Like, if you guys want to whack yourselves off, which again, like, play on words, like, you guys want to whack yourself, and then Joe
Phrasing.
stops them before you insult them even more. Um, they feel like, oh God, this is how we're gonna go. We're gonna die. But they were able to run off because Charlie wasn't fully dead. Charlie was calling the cops, and so Spats goes and takes care of him personally, shoots them all up, and then still that toothpick is in his mouth. And so what does Spats do? He walks over, he kicks it right on out, and it's like, oh my God, that, I don't know. To me, that's dark comedy. It's like, you just murdered a man. He's still holding that toothpick, that iconic toothpick, and it's all like, I got to attack his character a little bit more. Boom, kick that toothpick right out of your mouth, and
Yep.
it's just great. It's great cinema. The way how everything is shot. Yes, this is not like a movie review, but like, it kind of feels like we're getting that way, because again, I love this movie so much. Everything is well done in the script itself, because Billy Wilder is both a writer director. He knows exactly what he wants the camera to see, very much as we are supposed to see. Um, And I guess that's just what is one of the many elements that draws me to the script. It's very clear, and it definitely wants you to sit there and see what we're supposed to see. Um, and yeah, so Joe and them are heading off, and the moment that we go and we pick up, they are dressed up as women.
Yep.
They are
Shave your
Geraldine
legs.
and Josephine's. Yep, shave their legs, and they're still trying to learn how to walk in heels. And that's when Sugar walks right by, and they look at her, and there's another iconic line. It's like Jello on heels,
Mhm.
and it's like that one right there. I looked at it, I was like, oh, like that's a bit sexist. But again, it's the 50s.
Hey,
It's
I mean,
59. Yeah, it's a product of its time. But you could still overlook that because the relationship that both Jerry, Joe, and Sugar have, it's entertaining, and it's charming in a way. It's very charming.
yeah.
Would you say?
I mean, definitely, like she's a very beautiful woman. She's very plays it very cute and like kind of ditzy sort of way, you know, like gullible in a lot of like what she in. Sorry, like
And she talks about
she's
that
very
later on.
gullible.
She talks
Yeah,
about like you know, but yeah,
she's
like our
very like
continue.
starry eyed, kind of like I want to be famous. Like I want to live the dream, and that's kind of her
Yes,
character, you know.
I want to have fun. That's what it is. I want to live my dream, and I want to have fun doing it. It's everything constantly returning. And I know that like we kind of skipped through some of these. The refusal to call was Joe refusing to do this job with Jerry. And of course, the meeting the mentor is when they go to the shop. Toothpick Charlie dies. Spats and the gang are after them, but the cops come. So like already these guys have known. The meeting the mentor is not really a character per se in this story, but it's more of a situation of
Yeah,
we know too much, we saw this, and now our lives are on the line. So they're crossing the threshold is them finally giving in to Jerry's idea, and they're dressing up. They lie and say that they're from the conservatory, which I don't know why, but I guess mostly because I don't really know much about conservatories and I guess musical schools. I guess it must have been like a religious one. So like obviously no boys, no sex.
yeah, that's kind of like how a lot of the girls like lived growing up. Like it was improper to have boys in the apartment at like after dark or something, and you can't have friends over, and like it's just they didn't want no fooling around, and
Yeah,
like that's the best way they could ensure that didn't happen.
yeah. So that's what they've lied to. They sat there said that they spent the last 3 years in a conservatory. Um, and yeah, like they're brought on. They jump onto everything. Though of course when Jerry changes his name from Josephine to Daphne, like right on the spot, like already like we could sit there and tell, okay, this duo is not on the same page, and this is where things get rocky for not just them but everywhere else because it affects everything. Their stories sometimes don't line up, and they're having to hurry up and save themselves before their secrets revealed. But they Daphne definitely takes on this whole role, very very friendly, um,
Yeah.
and later on very horny. He's a
Well,
very horny
she's
guy.
horny because she's horny, and she's horny because she's around a bunch of beautiful women, and she
Yeah,
gets to sleep in the
and
same card as them.
yeah,
But
and Jerry has to keep it quite literally in his pants, and they mentioned that.
Joe's
Yeah,
the
the
one
crossing
like
of the
keeping the
threshold.
level head, and it's kind of weird because Joe is also the womanizer of
Yeah,
the two.
he's the womanizer. He's surrounded by all these beautiful babes, and yet he can still keep himself controlled compared to Jerry, who is almost like a quagmire, just not nearly perverse.
Yeah,
I think I think Jerry kind of really knows his boundaries in a sense, but also
yeah.
too, he definitely knows when not to freaking blow the damn, blow the coop and everything, and this whole disguise because our
Joe
test
definitely
allies and
thinks a
enemies,
couple steps ahead. He's
yeah,
definitely the planner.
our test allies and enemies, portion, like the fun and games, it's pretty much them on the train. It's the whole train segment. They are getting accustomed with Sugar and the rest of the girls.
Hmm.
Obviously, they're playing around. We learned that on this trip, Sweet Sue does not want alcohol whatsoever present. She doesn't want any issues with the law. And
Yep.
while doing this huge rehearsal on the train, Sugar's flask comes out and Daphne ends up covering. And legit, the whole like front half of the story always sit there and seems like it's Jerry that's the one chasing after Sugar, while it's Joe that is like he's keeping his cover. Though I think probably since they would later get down to Florida, he was able to breathe more. This right here
Yeah.
was more of like first let's get to Florida first before we even fuck up
Let's get
this
Chicago
thing.
in the backlight here, in the rear view
Exactly.
window
You
before
know,
we like get comfortable.
because obviously what Spats is supposed to be the embodiment of what legendary Chicago gangster? I don't know my gangsters all too much outside of some
Al Capone,
film. I think
or
so. I think it's supposed to be Al Capone
yeah,
in a sense, but obviously has a different ending compared to Al Capone. I thought
I think
Capone
I
did New York.
definitely made a note. Like, uh, I know like there wasn't a lot of like connections.
Yeah.
Like America wasn't as connected back in the 1920s. Like, so I was kind of like wondering like how these guys are like still worried that the mob's gonna find them and is looking all over for them after leaving the Chicago. But I'm also like, since I'm not familiar with it, maybe the mob was that
Well,
connected. So maybe they did
well,
have
we
a
find out
good
later
idea to be
on.
scared.
We find out later on. Technically, how would they know?
Yeah.
Because like even then they're all like, Spats is gonna be looking for a what is it, saxophone and a bassist,
Yeah.
two guys. It's like their pairing right there is what's unique that to be fine. And you're like, yeah, well, how can they find them? Well, they do have their ways that we find out later on. But yeah, so like the whole train sequence, you get Daphne sticking up for Sugar, and obviously the flask gets taken away, and then later on when they're all asleep, uh Jerry's over there. He's just like, ready to tear up Sugar. Like there is a lot of implied sexuality, which it's Marilyn Monroe, for Christ's sakes, one of the biggest sex symbols. I still look at her as one of the biggest ones today because her influence is everywhere.
Yep.
Um, and he wants to be with her, and so Joe tried to fix that issue by taking away the fucking ladder. He's like, well, what if I have to go get a drink? It was all like, you're gonna have to wait for the morning. And it's like he thought of it all to put a chain on
What
that
if there's an
puppy and
emergency? Pull the cord.
yeah, pull the cord. And
Great
and
setup
that
too.
gets used later on because when Sugar comes and she's thanking him for sticking up for her. Then all of a sudden, there's like this big, huge party. Women are bringing
Yeah.
crackers, and for all of
It's a
this.
girls' night.
Yeah, it's a big girls' night. And to me, their whole living area, there's no way how you could get all of those women in there without that bitch breaking and crushing Tony Curtis. Like, that was a part of me of like, there's
Things were a
no way
little
how
bit more
this could be
sturdy
too
back then.
real, huh?
Things were made a little bit more sturdy back then. Not
Sure,
like
yeah,
she
you
could
could
just
definitely add it to that. It's like
yank.
it could, you could have a fat guy on the bunk that weighs over 500 pounds and won't even bend it. Nowadays, you do that, and the guy below is 6 feet under now, and uh, things were probably built different back then, but yeah, so like there's like this huge party thing, and Jerry just wanted to get Sugar all by himself, but no, he's getting all the girls over. I
Hmm.
kind of felt like this in the script that we got to know the girls maybe a little bit better. This is probably a little bit of a trimming that they did for the final cut because you didn't really get to know some of the other girls.
Yeah,
But
there
I do
wasn't
know in
really
the
a
script you
lot
knew
of
some of them
spotlight
by
on them.
names. But there's a lot of women, so there's no way that you could sit there and do backstories for every single one of
Really
them.
just faded into the background. It was
Yeah,
the main thing was on Sugar and maybe her
Sugar was
roommate.
the main girl from the Sycopators.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be the focus. Not even Sweet Sue, and her name's in the band.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so Tony like wakes up and like they're like, what the freaking hell? They're trying to sit there and break all this shit up. But Joe actually manages to wake up, or yeah, he was already up. He actually manages to get a moment with Sugar, which starts the relationship
Yeah.
romance
because
later on in the story.
he finds out like she goes for saxophone players and like, oh, I have an in with this girl. I have a chance with her, so
Mhm.
I'm gonna take my shot. You know, that's kind of shady. Like he's doing it under false
But
pretenses,
like
but what can you do?
exactly, because when you look at her story of, she's always falls for them, and they use your toothbrush, and they leave straight in the morning right when she's asleep. They pretty much use her as a one night stand, and she's
Yep.
dumb enough to keep constantly falling for it and falling for it. And you kind of figured that in this movie she's not, she at the end at least she's not going to fall for it, which I guess she still fell for it, but
I mean, yeah,
I don't know. Like it wasn't one of those ones like, she managed to get away from him. She's gonna have to go a better life. We don't really want to spoil that right now. Like we do want to go in order and not get too ahead of ourselves. But yeah, Joe gets to know her a little bit more. We get to know a little bit more of just where she came from. Her dad doesn't approve, cut her off, so she's living her life, and she's probably living it all paycheck to paycheck.
yeah.
Uh, and so that transitions to when Jerry needed to stop everything, and so he pulls the cord. The emergency brake goes
Well,
off.
he does that accidentally. He's getting pushed out of his bed because all the girls are crowding on his bed, and he's just like
Well, they're
falling
also
out. Yeah.
they're putting ice um, down his shirt, and he's about to realize, holy
Yeah.
shit, my cover's about to get blown,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're gonna realize I don't really have boobs.
Yeah.
Though that gag gets thrown out the window after this whole series. But like they're tickling him, they're reaching things,
Hmm.
and so yeah, he pulls it to not fall back,
Yeah.
and all the girls quickly go back to their bedrooms. By the time that Sue and the other guys show up, I want to believe it's like I guess like entertainment lawyer or something like that, or a manager.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I think it's like
manager,
I think it's
the
like the
leader
manager.
of the band, I guess the composer of the
I wouldn't
band.
doubt it if he was also an entertainment lawyer too. He had that entertainment lawyer look, the
Yeah.
glasses, the suits, uh so yeah, like they were able to quickly get back to their rooms, and everything was done quietly. It's like, who pulled that? And then I think Jerry again covers of, oh, it was an accident and everything. And so they go and they move on, and we don't pick up the story until the approach, because in Test Allies and Enemies we got to know a little bit more about Sugar. We already kind of sit there and know enough about Joe and Jerry that these are guys that they live, they live day by day. They don't think really too much about the long run.
Yeah.
Joe maybe a little bit, but
But
to me
he has a
they
very
look like
dumb
the
way
kind
of
of,
like trying to get ahead. You know, he's got that
yeah,
get rich quick kind of
yeah,
mentality that never works out.
that was very much apparent in a lot of those films at the time.
Yeah.
Some of them today still happen, but it was much more frequent of that era of the get rich quick scheme kind of guy.
Yep.
So yeah, so we go and we transition, and we're just now in Florida. We're heading to the beach, uh, or not the beach yet, but the hotel where Osgood meets Jerry, and
Yep.
Osgood is just infatuated with him. He is all like, "Can I carry your equipment?" And Jerry just looked at it as, "Hey, yeah, you can." Throws it all on him, and this dude is so much in love with Jerry, and who he thinks of him as a woman, Daphne. Um, and we kind of get like another character, which again, I love the Osgood character. I kind of thought he was just gonna be a perverted old man, but it's like, no, it's like he's a guy that knows what he likes,
I mean,
and
it, as you're watching the film, you get the I got the idea that he was kind of like had an underlying homosexuality to
yeah,
him.
yeah.
So maybe he like deep down knew that Daphne was a dude at the whole time, so
I'm pretty sure
he
that's a
didn't
fan
mind.
theory somewhere that thought
Yeah.
that underlining, uh but yeah, he's over here, he's giving her a hand, he's doing everything to make such a great impression on Jerry, and Jerry's over here kind of starting to read it of like, oh, this guy's barking up the wrong tree. It's like, I got goods that he probably isn't gonna buy and
Yeah.
everything. And of course he goes and he gives Jerry a pinch on the ass and every. This is when Jerry really starts seeing just how bad women are being mistreated. Um, but again, there's not that moment in this film that really kind of talks about like, yeah, like maybe we should treat women a little bit better. He just knows how they're treated now. He gets a little bit of that treatment, and he keeps trying to
I mean,
shush
that's
Osgood off. And
the good thing about the writing is it doesn't like it shows you like, oh, it's not it's not a fun thing for women to be like treated and misused like that, and it doesn't like stop to like give you a lesson
a
on it, or
lecture, yeah.
yeah, it doesn't lecture you on it, and that's something
But I
that you
also
see in a
do
lot of
think
movies
that
today.
I do think though that probably women who saw this, they probably looked at maybe their partners, their boyfriends or husbands, and like, yeah, now you know how it feels, or looking up there like, yeah, now he knows how it feels to get pinched or catcalled, or
Yeah,
so it's
all
more of
the
something that
unwanted attention that they don't
maybe
want.
women at that time could look at them as like, yeah, that's how it feels, almost to a sense. But again, it's not like Tootsie where it's meant to be a lesson of, hey, we need to treat women with better respect because we should not treat them as objects, quite obviously. That's what Tootsie did. This again isn't like that. And I still have no clue yet, folks, how I misinterpret that. Usually I'm onto this shit. um, but yeah, completely misinterpreted on my end. So yeah, Jerry goes up to his room with Joe because they get paired up. He's telling him about Osgood. He's like, that guy pinched my butt, and and it's all like, we got to keep this covered, da 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 da. And then Sugar's all like, it's like, hey, let's go to the beach. It's like, I don't have a bathing suit. It's like, well, me neither. And to me, I'm thinking immediately, oh great, this is not going to go right because they don't have a bathing suit.
And they
You
don't have
know
the features to put in a bathing suit, or they'll probably have to like
exactly.
change in front of the women,
And it's right when beach day comes. Joe is all like, oh, I'll catch up with you later, because earlier the manager was all like, I can't find my glasses and I can't find my suitcase. And apparently Joe took them.
and
So Joe is
that's
on his own little like mission.
yeah, that's a good thing because like in the script, like the car sequence after the emergency cord is pulled, you get a little bit more of the comedy continuing.
Yeah.
Joe goes and steals some stuff from the suitcase, and they switch beds to try to
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna get in with Sugar right now, and
Yeah.
no, Jerry is jumping in the bed with Joe after Sugar
Yeah.
switches beds with him, and he's trying to get a little nookie and confess like, "Hey, I have a surprise for you. I think you're gonna
Yeah.
like it." And
But
it's
see, that
two
one did
guys
not make it.
about
So
to,
that is a scene. That is a scene that did not make it in the movie.
yeah. I think that they
Uh,
might have cut that out just because it might have gone a little too
Might have went like a
far.
little too far, but yet if
Yeah,
you look at Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, they did the same thing in the '80s
yeah.
when Dale Griffith was in the bed with Steve Martin's character,
But in the
and
'60s, it was a little bit more frowned upon because
yeah,
can't really have like gay homosexuality
you
back
can't have
then.
Jack Lemon's like what is it? Jack Lemon's legs in between Turdy Curtis's thighs.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Where's your hands at?" He's like, "They're on pillows." He's like, "That's not pillows." And it's like,
yeah.
ah, yeah, no, you couldn't have that. You could not have that there.
But
Uh,
like, it's a good,
America was apparently not ready for that.
yeah.
Um,
But like later on, when the manager is looking for his stuff, and the good thing about the writing is like the guys can give each other a look, like they know he stole some stuff, and like the audience knows that they stole some stuff,
they can
and
easily pick up on it.
yeah,
Yeah. Which, you kind of see a little misstep of that. Like, I'm not sitting here saying every comedy movie is not like that today, but
yeah,
like, I kind of feel like that's a lesson that has been forgotten. There's actually quite a lot of really, really good filmmaking lessons and techniques that I feel for the sake of, I guess, trying to churn out as many movies as possible, they kind of lose that effort. But of course, too, like they had thousands upon movies being released. Like Hollywood was booming,
yeah.
during 30s and 40s and 50s, and
They were
um,
full on monopoly. They
yeah,
were,
and so you kind of figure there has to be some explanation to why films have kind of stopped being that way. Um, but I'm pretty sure most people look at them, it's old fashioned. It's what was used back then. I don't think it will sell now. And then they don't want to take that chance of, we don't know if it'll sell, though nostalgia sells regardless. you can't just rely on the 80s for nostalgia Hollywood. It's like there's other decades, and I feel like the 90s has now become the next big craze of nostalgia,
Oh yeah.
remaking.
Oh, we
um
got that '90s show coming out.
I can't wait. I can't wait. But yeah, so continuing on, they go to the beach, and Jerry and Sugar are having fun in the water, and then he lost his inflatables. And it's not until Sugar really kind of notices. He was like, "Wow, I didn't really know how flat chested you are, Daphne. I'm actually jealous." And it's like, "Oh my god!" And it's when he looks at it, he's like, "Oh god, I lost them." But it's like, "Oh cool, no one really paid attention to my chest,
Yeah,
so I can go without these."
it's
And
okay. Women would
um,
stuff their bras, so
yes, and so they go and they're playing ball on the beach, and that's when we pick up on Joe, and Joe is in this outrageous disguise from the manager's clothes, and he's keeping an eye on Sugar, and yeah, of course, he goes and he bullies a child first because the kid didn't want to get up. He's collecting his shells and
get out
whatnot,
of
and
here, Junior.
and the mom's all like, "Come on, we need to go." He's like, I want to stay here." He's like, "You better listen to your mother." And that kid quickly got up and ran. I was like, I'd be creepy too if some freaking guy came up with glasses and whatnot, and it's all like, "You better listen to your mother." Like, that frightened the hell out of me too. I run away. And he keeps the shells. He doesn't let the kid run off with them. He's like, "No, no, I'm keeping your treasures." Uh
He
and
works
when
that in
oh, he
really
does.
well.
He works it so in for that whole situation when Sugar notices him, and it's all like, "Oh yeah, I have a yacht, and I have he's feeding everything that she wants to know about the guy she wants to be.
And he's changed
Because
his persona in such a distinct way. It
yeah, and
like you probably wouldn't pick up it's
obviously,
the same guy. You know, he's a
yeah,
really good actor.
exactly. And what was it? Yeah, he filled in everything because they were talking about, like, when she gets to Florida, she wants to find herself a rich guy with a yacht, all his own. She has a preference. Obviously, it's an old, rich white guy with some money. And they even make a joke about that when they got to the hotel when she's like, "Let's hope he brought his grandson to Florida." So maybe she could swoon the grandson, and she can,
Yeah,
yeah, profit off of grandpa when grandpa passes away.
yeah.
So yeah, so she thinks she's found her guy, and he is like, she's eating this up, the shit that he's selling them, and it's all like, "Yeah, I collect shells because it's what got me the idea for my oil company." And she's like, "You work for Shell Oil?" And I'm over here, it's like, oh my god. It's all like, it's on the nose,
Kind of
but
a
more
hobby of
on
mine to collect
purpose.
shells.
Yeah, it's more like so on the nose, but it's meant to do that as a comedy because she's supposed to play a not so smart individual. So it's
Yeah.
something of like, oh, throw your hands up in the air, but you can't help but laugh because it's funny.
Yep.
It's sometimes that kind of dialogue can be like head shaking or head scratching, like, really?
But they
But
make it work.
in the context, yes, in the context they made that work, which I love. Um, I don't know whose idea that was, if that was Billy's or if that was Diamond's, but whoever, like, I praise you, man. It's like you were able to take a role that a lot of screenwriters tell you do not do too much on the nose. They were able to break that role and did it in a comedic effect that I love. And so we kind of get this whole setup that they have a show later on. She wants him to come there. Jerry is starting to figure out that that's Joe underneath there, and he's all
Yep.
like, they're like, "There's no way." And so there's like, "Come on, let's hurry up and let's go tell Geraldine all about this." And they
Yeah, let's
run to the
run. Let's run
hotel,
back to the man. Let's run back to the rooms.
and they were just too slow because Joe manages to beat him there, and he has the wig on and a bubble bath, and he's like, "There's no way he could have beat us." And I love
Jerry is
Jerry's.
so annoyed. And it's so funny because they're supposed to be in trying to like get hide from the mob, and he's out here trying to
They're
oust his
pulling this
buddy
shit.
in
Freaking
front of Sugar
Jerry.
just because they wants to get a little
Yeah,
a little
a little piece
action.
of action.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the whole fact that Jerry is so enveloped. It's funny. These guys are on the run
Yeah.
from the mob, trying to save their skin. But Jerry's having so much fun as a woman with Sugar and the girls and whatnot. And Joe is having the time of his life, falling in love with Sugar or romanticizing his yet. He hasn't yet fallen in love with her, but it's still the romanticizing that he's doing. So these guys are supposed to be thinking about their lives, and no, they're having the time of their life. And like again, it's like one of the major themes of this freaking story, it seems.
Yep.
Uh, and when they go there, and obviously the whole scenario works where it's like, oh, I met this wonderful guy, and it's like, oh geez, he sounds like a good fella, and it's like, oh my god. It's what we know compared to what the characters know, and it's the irony of the whole situation. I freaking love it. Every time that I envision that scene, it just brings a smile to me. Like, I
Yep.
don't know anyone that cannot watch this movie and not grin ear to ear at some of the comedy in this. It to me, it still works. I could laugh. I'm still laughing at this to this day. And my comedy is pretty dark. I like me some really dark comedy, and for
Same.
something, yeah, made in '59 or the late '50s, and it still gets you. But also too, it's the same thing with if a movie's great to begin with. I love the films in the 1920s. I like Godzilla, and Godzilla came up in what, 52, early '50s, I think
Yeah,
so.
it was like 54 or something.
Yeah. Okay, so early the mid 50s, and that stuff, I still go back to it. It's still entertaining. I never get tired of it. Um, there's always something new to pick up with. And I feel like that misses a lot of cinema today, misses that point. I'm obviously going to attack modern day cinema. I don't mean
Cinema
to.
today tries too hard, is what you're saying. Like they try way too hard to like
I don't
do
even
the
think they
easy
sometimes
things.
like, okay, so there are filmmakers, and I've seen independent filmmakers, and I've seen filmmakers work in AAA pictures. Um, where they are having fun and they actually do their best. But then there are some where you really kind of look at it and it's all like, holy fuck, what the hell happened? You know, holy fuck, what the hell happened tends to happen a lot
They
in
fumbled the
my
ball.
thought process. But there are a lot of independent stuff. There's still people here from Houston. When I see their stuff, it deserves a standing ovation. It's like, this is so fucking good, you know. Um, but again, back to back to Some Like It Hot. So yeah, they eat it up. Sugar has to go let her roommate in because she's leaving a puddle outside their room. It's a pretty fast thing of, yeah, we know Joe is donning another persona, and Jerry sit there and is trying to kind of fuck it all up for him. I mean, because what also kind of feels, it doesn't feel like these two guys are fighting over the same woman. I think once Jerry kind of starts realizing, oh, it's so much better living this kind of life, I think he completely forgets about Sugar to begin with.
Yeah.
He's having such a blast that it, the whole triangle relationship doesn't really form too much. It's teased, but at the same time, it's like, no, it's only Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's done well done. It's done well done. Yeah, that's so
And
perfect English. I do apologize, folks. Um,
he's definitely Jerry's definitely like taking it like, okay, you're winning this, so like I'll just let you have it. And
yeah.
Joe's trying to like solidify the deal with Sugar.
hmm
So he tried to get him
And
a date night going.
and when Sugar leaves, and Jerry looks back at Joe, and Joe gets up out of that bathtub,
Yeah,
holy hell, still
he's
in the
still in the
suit,
suit,
drenching wet.
disguise.
And it's like, Joe, don't do anything rational. Don't do anything crazy. And Joe was getting ready to freaking strangle him. It's like, you almost blew my cover, you zit. And it's, oh my God, it's hilarious. Again, folks, it's hilarious. Like, you guys got to watch this movie. And if you did, I'm pretty sure you guys are thinking the same thing too. There are so many moments in which it's like, oh, Jerry's going to get it. Jerry's going to get it. And of course, whenever they get a phone call and it's Osgood trying to reach out to Daphne, that's when you start figuring out all the pieces are getting put together for the date night with Sugar later on. Our ordeal pretty much comes up right here with Joe forming the plan of, I'm going to use Osgood's yacht and everything to take Sugar on a date after the show. And
What are you gonna do with
you
Osgood?
It's like, yeah, you keep them somewhere else. You can figure it out. And that's what's the best thing about it. It's like, it's the one time that Joe, because Joe has always kind of had the better ideas. Though Jerry, to me, Jerry still has like one point against Joe with the whole idea of cross dressing to escape Chicago. That was a good plan. But
Yeah.
the rest of the time, it seemed like Joe was more the leader of the two. You know, he was the man who made the plans. This is how we execute them. So this is him again having it's like, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna go on the yacht to have the wonderful date with Sugar, and you're gonna take Osgood somewhere else. He's like, I don't care where, but you figure it out. That's your part of the
Yeah.
plan to figure out. And Jerry, thinks on his feet because when they're doing the show later that day, Daphne, Jerry is getting flowers from Osgood. Osgood's the only love interest that appears at the show, and he's over here waving at him, and Joe's telling Jerry, he's like, wave at your lover, and it's all like, he's like, and show it, like smile, so show some teeth, and it's like, man, again, it's the sexism here, but it's played for the comedy because
He
we
flipped
think
the pink shit.
we think Osgood doesn't know, but again, like what you said, he maybe could have known. He could have known probably the whole damn time because Jack
Deep
Lemmon does
down,
not make a
he
pretty girl.
knows.
He does not, So I'm pretty sure any guy would have, or any person, man or woman, child would had pointed that out. Um, so yeah, the show's wrapping up. Obviously, Sugar's upset because he's her love interest is not showing up. But with the flowers delivered to Daphne, Tony takes them. Not Tony, Joe. Joe takes them, leaves a note, and says, "Oh, like these were delivered to you." And so his plan for the date falls so much in action. And I love just how he thinks on the spot. It's very on the spot, on the spot. Nothing feels like, oh, that's so coincidental. You don't really get that with this. Everything moves so fluidly in the story, and with Sugar on her way towards the dock, uh, Joe waits for her to leave first, and then he goes and he hauls ass,
Yeah.
and
Crawls
then
out the
Jerry
window and
goes, yeah.
down the side of the building.
And it's funny watching Joe run. Like you could definitely tell that had to have hurt to be running upstairs in heels. I would not doubt it if some of those guys got a sprained ankle. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, so he goes, he undresses, he still has the earrings on and everything, but he undresses, he's taking the bike, he's hauling ass, he's right there on Sugar's tail while Daphne is, getting ready to, go spend her night with Osgood. And yeah, again, I love the whole little chase thing. There's always a chase going on.
Yeah.
If it's not gangsters being chased by cop cars or people not being chased by the gangsters, then it's them chasing women.
Yeah.
Um, at least trying to beat them to a point where their plan still works. Of okay, like she doesn't know yet. I can still keep this
Always
persona
give your
going.
protagonist a goal, to go towards,
Exactly. And he makes it. He obviously makes it. Still has the earrings on, waves at her, and when he's checking everything, he's like, "Oh shit!" He like puts it up, puts him away, and yeah, they go on the boat. Obviously, he doesn't know how to ride it, so he's
He
trying to cover his
finesses his way
ass.
to start it and to get her on
Yeah,
the boat. And
and then even on the yacht, they're over here. Like for one, she's very much upfront about kissing and falling in love with this guy. And he comes up with, to me, again, has to be the most like kick to the good old emotional nutsack of anyone. The reason why apparently he feels so cold when being kissed by women. He did it just to get her to kiss him
yeah,
and
he
everything.
was
But the way
doing the
it's all like, oh,
hard
my
to get.
first kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the first kiss and everything. And, the moment that we kissed each other, I think we took a step back and didn't she fall down a cliff or something?
No, I don't remember, but I just remember
Yeah.
like the subtle nuance of the writing. Like it's kind of like when you're watching Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Him and what's her name are kind of insulting each other. He's trying to flirt with
Mm-hmm.
her, and she's
Yeah.
like insulting him back. Like, oh, my my mother's eyes. I have my mother's eyes, and but you are like, or no, I have my father's ears and my mother's eyes. And she's like, oh, all of the best pieces of you are taken, And then later in the room, they're kind of kissing, and he's like, I don't like fast women, and then they just go on make nookie in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Like that's the good writing that you have is the subtle
Yeah.
nuance of these two characters
But still, the whole
trying to build it up.
situation's a bit dirtbaggish to you know form this fake story. Which again, like I think the first time I read this though, I actually kind of really wondered, is there actually some truth to what happened to him? Because it's the way how he treats women. It's like
Yeah.
what could have happened to the point, because I don't think no one just really does that to women, treats them as objects for any reason outside. There has been something that triggered it, you know.
But like, yeah, maybe he was kind of opening up uh
it,
sort of
it's it's
opening up
it's never
like
further explored, but I, as much as your theory of Osgood, you know, knowing that Daphne, aka Jerry, you know, that he knew that was a dude all along, that's kind of my theories. I wonder, it's like is there actually some truth to the story?
yeah.
Because the way how he does tell it, it's like is there some truth? And the question is, it's which is the lie and which is the truth? Because you know they always sit there and tell you, yeah, it's something along the lines of the truth is just the lie with something, I don't know. Yeah, I heard it
I,
somewhere. It's like the truth is the lie, but it's something, I think it's like twisted or whatever, or something like that. I don't know.
a
I
lie is
sound
just a
stupid.
twisted truth.
Something like that. I forgot where I heard it, but it was a really, really good way, and I butchered the fuck out of it, so I apologize. I'm pretty sure everyone's shaking their head, and they're all like, "Ah, there we go. James is not making sense again."
We forgive you.
I
It's fine.
I never make sense, folks. That's the issue. It's every time that I'm trying to pull an actual exact quote, my brain is all like, let's jumble it up and fuck it up. That's just how my brain works.
It's okay.
Uh,
You can just use drinking it as an excuse.
yeah, I'm gonna blame water, which is like 90% of my body right now.
Yeah, water.
but but anyway, so yeah, the date actually does go on, and Sugar is falling head over heels. Like they're obviously not knocking boots yet, but it's the kissing and alcohol use, and they're absolutely loving it. And then you cut to Oswald and Daphne, and they're still trying to figure things out. Well, what do you mean you can't go on the yacht? It's like I just get sick when I'm on the ocean. It's like you don't want me to puke, and it's like, oh my god. It's like, okay, so motion sickness, which no lie, I'm the same way. I don't even know how I'm still able to get on ferries today, because ferries still make me feel very uncomfortable and very nauseous.
Yeah.
And so I always have to look down at the floorboard, the place where there is no water
I
and
get the same way when
everything.
I'm driving in the car. I can't read a book or like look at my phone to read something if the
You
car is
shouldn't be
moving.
looking at your phone and reading a
I'm in
book
the
while in the
passenger
car.
seat. I'm not driving. That's
Oh.
it's not what I'm driving. I'm a safe driver. I'm actually
About to say,
annoyingly
I've been in
safe.
the car with you. Thank God this has never happened. It's like
Because like, oh crap, now I gotta worry about other people. Damn. All right.
all I can imagine now is how many times have I paid attention to my phone and Chris is like over here reading Catcher in the Ride in the car, and it's like, oh, I almost hit that
I'm
person,
just
and then
steering
I'm
with
just
my
like over,
feet. Like, what are you
I'm
looking at, James? Why are you
I'm
holding the
just,
thing?
oh well, I'm always holding the old shit bar. That's a staple. That's a staple for me. It's you can be the safest freaking driver, and my arm is still holding on to, because it's not you that I don't trust. It's everyone else.
Yeah.
So,
Imagine that being
especially
your
in
day
Texas,
job.
especially in Texas. So yeah, they end up actually going dancing. There's like a little cantina, and Jerry is having the time of his life. First, he's like a little like, I don't know, and
A little
but even then,
standoffish.
like he gets into it, and then sometimes he loses himself, and it's all like you're leading again. He's like, oh, sorry, and then it's like he has to let Osgood lead to, you know, because he kind of loses a little bit of Daphne persona, and he's just having fun, you know. But again, you know, it's having a time of his life. Joe is having a time of his life. I really do think this is the point where Joe actually fucked up for himself, and it's like, oh my god, I love Sugar, because
It's
I
falling in love.
gave I gave this bleeding heart story that was so fake to somewhat of an extent in my theory, that was so fake that even then she was still willing to kiss me, and we still had this romantic moment. Again, it was tarnished by such a hideous story that, yeah, I'm not gonna let go of. But yeah, it's just the way how it all unfolds. uh, but everyone is kind of getting the fun, and I think what they really want, you know, they want the release. These guys have been living paycheck to paycheck, hoping not to get evicted out of their apartments. Now they're down here in Florida and they're having the whole fucking time of their life, and they don't want that to end.
Yep.
And that goes and takes us uh,
To the road back
um,
or
no, not to the road back yet, not yet.
the reward.
It takes us to the reward,
Mm.
because the next day we end up learning that while going back, that Spatz's men are down in Florida for some kind of convention, which is all like, it's like, what hotel holds a mobster convention? Or like,
And the one hotel that they're hiding at out of the
it's like
entire
this.
country.
It's like the same thing in spoiler alerts for the Sandman, but like with the meeting with all the serial killers, and like it's
Yeah.
a serial convention spelt with a C.
These guys aren't
and
talking about
and it,
cereal. It's so weird.
yeah, and it's like a serial convention, but really it's a convention for all these serial killers. And they have guest speakers, and it's like, what the fuck? So yeah, it's, oh my god, I love the Sandman so much. We got to cover that in the future. I'm making a list and checking it twice. um I'm naughty and nice, folks, so I'm not gonna lie to you.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler
But
alert.
yeah,
But
they
yeah,
get
so
back to the hotel and talk about
yeah,
their
the
date
hotel,
nights.
Spatz's men are there for this meeting convention kind of thing for the other mobsters, and that's pretty much how they kind of figure out that, oh, well, they could be here. It's there's a system. So obviously, like, yeah, like you have the Chicago branch. I guess it's like a company. You got your Chicago branch, you got your Florida branch, you got your New York branch, your California, Texas. Um, so obviously they have to have some kind of system of, hey, we're looking for two guys, and obviously probably some of the other mobsters, as long as they're on good terms, they can figure out the guy. And it's like, do you want us to send him up your way, or do you want us to hold him until you get
Yeah.
down here
I
to
mean,
deal with
I
your
didn't get the
business?
sense like when reading the script that they
Yeah.
were there to look for the guys. I think it was just a
Well,
genuine
well, they were
coincidence.
actually there for the meeting that we will learn later on is connected to Matchstick Charlie,
Yeah.
or Toothpick Charlie,
Two
Matchsticks. What
picture.
the fuck? I'm thinking Get 'Em Alone, and there's like a guy named Matchsticks.
Yeah.
But it's another noir kind of film. Um, but anyway, so yeah, they figure out that they're there, and so now they're hurrying up packing, and they find out that apparently, Jerry was like so happy at first over Osgood that apparently they were going to get engaged. And
Yeah.
Joe's over here. It's like, well, what the hell do you mean? And everything, and
He
it's all
found his
like, you
cash
can't
cow.
you can't get engaged. You're a guy and everything. And it's like, well, I have to sit there and think about security. And so
Yeah.
that just goes to sit there and show you, like, it's a little bit of American capitalism.
He's
I
like,
need
I'm
security in my
counting
life.
on him finding out I'm a guy. I'm just like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna marry him first, and then we'll do the whole I'm a guy. So now you have to pay me to like
annul
keep
the
me happy.
marriage, and
Yeah,
then make the alimony payments for months and the years.
exactly.
And
I'll have a clean getaway, but I'll have also like I'll be entitled to your money because we'll be married.
yeah, so it already goes to show that Jerry has already thought this out of how to screw this old man out of his fucking money.
Yeah,
He's not dumb. Neither men are truly dumb. They just have certain situations in which one is better at
they just
than the
have like
other.
really dumb ideas.
I
They're
don't
not
know the
dumb. They
whole.
just kind of like
I don't
their
know,
leaps
like
in logic
marrying
are
an
a
old
little
man for
like
his
out there.
money, marrying an old man for his money just to get alimony and all this. Like, there's
Yeah,
plenty of people who have gotten away with this shit. But yeah, so there's this whole scene where they're in love, but also too when they're trying to go down, they find Spatz and his guys are there. They go back up after already figuring out that they know where their room is, because when they find them, they're like, "You look familiar," and it's all like, "It's like you broads go up to Chicago," and it's like, "Oh no, I've never been to Chicago in all my life," and they're trying to play it off, and then of
I
course
wouldn't
one of
be
them
caught
has,
dead in Chicago.
yeah, of course, the irony of all of that. And then, of course, Joe has the key out, and the guy just looks at it, and it's all like,
Gets
oh,
the
okay, we
key
already know what room
hotel room.
number.
We'll
Yeah,
come up and see you later, babes.
and even before that scene, when we're introduced to Spats and all of them, and the cop that's there, they're getting shaken down by the meeting people to make sure they're not carrying. And Spats is like, why would I be carrying? And so they check his men, and they find the gun in one leg, and the guy's like, it's not loaded, and that dude just gives him this look like, that's gotta be the most stupidest damn thing I've ever heard. So he checks the other leg, and all of a sudden a whole freaking barrage of bullets just fall down. So it's like, yeah, they're searching them, and then they search the golf clubs. It's like, what's in here? Oh, it's my 9 iron, and it's all that. And they go and they pull one, and it's a golf club that's like a cork for a freaking Tommy gun.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, and so obviously these guys were packing iron in case something was happening, um,
They're
which should,
mobsters. What do you
yeah,
expect?
like I think at one point you kind of look at it as, oh, maybe they did follow the breadcrumbs to our heroes, maybe, because
I think
we
it
we,
was more of
we
they're
we don't we
going
don't
to
get
meet
to,
the big boss, and they know they've been kind of screwing up lately, so they're just trying to cover their
yeah,
ass.
yeah,
I really don't think them being there with
that was
uh,
happenstance.
yeah, it
Then
was
you
just a
believe,
coincidence. They
yeah,
weren't looking for him; they just were coming down for the party, and they were coming loaded to make sure like they're protected and they have their like backs covered, their asses covered.
exactly. And so yeah, Geraldine, I mean Joe and Jerry are hurrying up. They're packing their shit. They're trying to get out. Um, they actually realize that they can't really get out because these mobsters are all over the grounds uh, for the security forces, and like they've already dropped the getup. They've dropped the getup. They're dressed now as who they are. And so now it becomes even harder. And then we're here with another chase. There's always a chase in some sequence, like going back to what I was sitting there saying, there's always a chase. This one right here again is another chase scene, which again is done, well.
Yeah,
It's well done, and it
it's kind of
doesn't
like
feel like it
Scooby
doesn't feel
Dooing.
like yeah, it doesn't feel like, oh god, they're using the same gag again. It
Yeah,
doesn't feel like it's tiring because they always figure out a new way of how to do something. It's not over the top every time, but it does build up. Like you have this dark noir gangster shootout with the cops and everything in a chase scene, and then you have the guys evading the police to save their skin. There's something that's new that's added, so it doesn't feel like it's the same dry old chase.
yeah,
Um, so they end up actually hiding underneath the table where Spats and his men are at, uh, and that's when we end up learning from the big boss that apparently there's a plan to take out Spats, and there's a whole cake hauled in. They're all singing uh, "Happy Birthday" to you, even though like it's months away, and it's all like, oh, we want to do it early. And
yeah.
I was actually quite curious of, did the big boss have a hearing aid?
It looked like it.
I,
Yeah, he had
it
something
looked like
in
a
his
hearing aid
ear.
because I don't believe hearing aids were always like the fine fitting. It looked like he had a hearing aid,
Yeah, it,
and
it it was something like that. It was just I think it was a hearing aid actually. Yeah, but like
and
it definitely like set him apart. And did he have a monocle? I don't remember. Did he have
no,
something on his eye?
no, I
No.
don't think he. I think he had glasses, but I think he took them
Oh,
off
okay.
and
Uh,
everything. He didn't like the Monopoly guy, but but yeah, but either way, he's like over here. It's all like, we're here to honor, like he's talking business, and yeah, when the cake gets there, Spats knows there's something up, but of course his fucking men are all like, "Happy birthday to you," and it's
yeah.
all like, oh my god, you dudes are about to get blown away, and you're not even
He
seeing
gives
this.
him a hint, like you off toothpick Charlie without consulting me, and you
Yeah,
let two witnesses get away. You've been kind of like screwing up in Chicago, so we're gonna have a
but
little
also too, Charlie
restructuring of
was
management.
like a friend to the guy to begin
Yeah,
with, to the big boss. So it wasn't not only, yeah, you fucked up big of two guys that escaped seeing the murder, and you've killed my friend,
yeah,
but and you've disrupt this higher order kind of thing, but like you did it, and I guess it's fucking up business down below. Um, and so yeah, the guy pops out of the cake. He's fucking obliterating the shit out of him. Uh, and it's almost like the same kill scene for Charlie, because it always sit there seems like the leader of a mob boss just needs a few extra bullets in him, you
yeah.
know. Because I think, what was it? I think, did he actually come armed, or what? Or was he trying to sit there and say something? I think something more along the lines of Charlie. Like I think he was trying to sit there and say something even more despairingly to Charlie, and then he got another round of lead into him.
In the at the birthday party,
Yeah, at the meeting, I believe so that he
I
did not
don't
die in the
recall
first
that,
blow.
but I just recall the cake being rolled in and them singing. and then dude pops out and shoots the mobsters,
Yeah.
Spats and his guys, and then
So
Joe and Jerry take off.
yeah. Well, Spats needed a little extra lead. I remember seeing that in the film. But again, everything happened so quick that at that time my brain was doing my brain was setting up for the recording.
Yeah,
So that was like when my attention kind of lost a little bit of focus. So I'm trying to go off of what the script is in my head. But yeah, so yeah, Spats dies. Our villain like completely, Deus Ex Machina, I guess you would say.
yeah. But now the guys have a bigger problem because now the head boss of the mob
Yeah.
is after them because they witnessed another murder.
And there's another chase.
Yeah,
There's another chase that goes around that this time goes into the hall in which Sugar and Sweet Sue's band's playing, and Joe pretty much is sit there and say, I'm not worth it. Which obviously it goes to sit to show that Joe does have a change of character. I think in a sense of he
I think
does
we
look
didn't
at
move. We skipped over that during the reward. Oswald gives the diamonds to
yeah, yeah,
Daphne
he,
as a
yeah, he
gift,
he he does give it
and
to him, but I don't really think that like because yeah, she's brokenhearted by that.
yeah,
But the thing is, it's like because right now we're in the final act. I don't think she clicked that Geraldine is Joe, who
no, no,
is
no,
Junior.
I don't think so either. I think she
She doesn't
is,
click until that meeting where when they're running through being chased by the mob,
yeah,
that he tells her, "I'm not worth it."
yeah,
I am not worth the tears to cry over and the alcohol to spill. I'm not worth any of that. You deserve so much better, which I do believe is a character change because I don't think he would have done that to any of the women up in Chicago.
yeah,
Like I truly do believe he fell in love with her, and it was all like it's like I fucked up so big, and I got your heart, and you were so infatuated with me, and I just took advantage of that. And he was at least man enough to confront her finally, even though there were freaking gangsters chasing him, to tell her now finally face to face, I fucked up.
yeah.
It's like I'm not worth it. And when she clicks to it, and I think he leaves like a piece of cloth that was supposed to be a triggering memory to her of like, oh my
As
god, this is
Junior,
Junior.
yeah,
And they're running, and the gangsters run past, and then she follows soon afterwards. Somehow she gets ahead of the gangsters, but um,
I think
they
she
all
finds a
managed.
spike,
Yeah,
doesn't she?
they find the bike,
Yeah,
and they make it all the way to the docks where Osgood is because they have already previously called Osgood to get the boat prepared.
yeah,
And so Sugar and Joe and Jerry are all making their way. Jerry is still dressed like a woman, still dressed like Daphne, and they're hauling ass, and they get away. Like there really is no big like, oh, we defeated the big boss. No, like it was get the fuck out of there. Their
yeah,
true enemy Spats was taken care of. That was in the resurrection because the road back was the whole hotel and them being trapped by the henchmen. The resurrection was them confronting Spats. Little Bonaparte, that's the name of the big boss, Little Bonaparte.
yeah,
I should have checked my notes for that instead of trying to go off my head. But yeah, Sugar clicks to Joe, realizes that he was a man on the yacht, and the kiss and everything. And then the return is pretty much when our heroes and their supporting cast members are on that little mini uh, boat getting ready to head off to the yacht. Um,
yeah.
and Joe apologizes and everything, but you know what? She just doesn't care. She doesn't care if he's a saxophone player or if this Junior character was fake. She absolutely loves him,
She's just
and
dumb like that.
oh my god, I
She
truly
stays
do
true to
believe.
the character. A lot of these characters are written really
I
well, and
guess
they
maybe I'm giving her
stay
the
true to
benefit of
them.
the doubt. Maybe I'm giving too much of the benefit of the doubt. But of course, the real last minute image of all this is her Sugar and Joe are kissing in the back and embracing one another as lovers. But you look at the front, and Osgood's are already talking about the wedding, and it's all like, look, I gotta call it off. It's all like it's like I'm not who I say I am. Like I'm he's finding every excuse in the book until it
I'm
finally
a
freaking
smoker.
comes.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. It's all like I can't have children, we can adopt some. And it's all like It's like, you just don't get it, Osgood. You just don't get it. And he finally pulls the wig off, throws it in his lap. I'm a man, damn it. And he just kind of smiles. He's like, nobody's perfect. And then Jack Lemon's like, nobody's perfect. And it's like,
Yeah, I'm
because
screwed.
yeah, but it's the fact that I felt like, even though that was scripted, that felt so ad lib the way how he presented it.
Yeah.
Of nobody's perfect, and legit Jack Lemon's like, nobody's perfect. It's almost like, how do I respond to it? And then he just looks at him, and Osgood's just smiling, just driving his boat to the yacht, and then Jack Lemon's like, oh god, I'm stuck with this guy. It's all like, I had a little too much fun in Florida, and now it's biting me in the ass. And so there is a parallel. Joe had so much fun that he found love, and he has love. And Jerry has had so much fun, he realized, oh my god, I could be quite possibly put in a shotgun marriage with Osgood.
Yep.
Um, but it's, again, that's the conclusion of the script. It's such a wonderful script. The writing, the dialogue, the action, it's so clear, it's so concise, it's so much fun. Even if you couldn't afford to see the movie or did not have a streaming service to watch it, just reading the script itself is such enough immense entertainment and pleasure, not in a sexual way, but pleasure, in a not sexual way. I don't know
You
why I
don't
keep
need to
saying.
say that.
I
We
know, but I
know.
feel like if people do it, and then the way how they're seeing my hand do the video right here, pleasure, and it's
You'll
like
be
not
like,
sexual.
so pleasurable, but no homo.
Oh my god! Oh my god! But anyway, yeah, that. but yeah, like, it's meant to be enjoyed. It's a wonderful, wonderful film. I love this movie. I want to cover more Billy Wilder stuff, and we just may do that in the next season. We legit, who knows? Maybe we'll break in February with some Billy Wilder movies. We haven't even touched what the next season is going to be. But again, this is why I love filmmaking and scripts and stories so much. It's for this right here. It's the fun. I may be, a lover of horror, but there is a very different sense of horror that I definitely enjoy, that gives me a sense of enjoyment and love and passion. And when I read the script, I see all of that within the words that Billy Wilder and Diamond did. It's I don't know what else to sit there and say about it. Chris, what are your thoughts on this?
This is a very fun script. Each of the characters are really well defined, and like you you don't, if you took away the names of the script you're reading it, like you can still get the idea of who each character is and how well written their motivations are. Like you get, these guys are, they're guys. They're trying to
Mm-hmm.
make ends meet, and they still got those carnal urges, even with the threat of death looming over them. If they don't like keep them in check, they're still gonna go after those urges. And you got Sugar is a delightfully like gullible girl. I love her character so much.
Believe it or not,
Uh,
this is my first Marilyn Monroe movie I've ever actually seen. I've seen
really?
only clippets of her stuff. Yeah, I've never seen. I think it's Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. I've never seen that one. Though I actually want to sit there and see it, because there is a scene with this little boy that is like, oh, he's all uptight. He's an adult and everything, and
Yeah.
he's like, oh, here with the co-lead who's a brunette. I forgot what the actress is, but it's all like, oh, I'm man enough, like I can handle it. And it's like, and it's this woman that's like, oh my god, this boy is so bold to,
Yeah.
I still need to see, what was the one that actually had it with the grate scene, where Marilyn steps over the grate and it has the iconic where she puts
Oh
her
man, I
hand
don't
down and
remember.
her dress blows
But
up.
yeah,
And
no, I know what you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah, but
there's a
like,
lot of
yeah,
Marilyn stuff.
this is a very like, it's a long script, but it's a very fast paced script, and like
Hmm.
that's kind of how movies were back then. Like the actors would like, they would breeze through it. The pacing was really well written. I
You
just
had that
loved reading this one.
transatlantic, I think, what, transatlantic slang or accent or something like that, where they always talk. I think I think they talked like super fast or so. I think that's what it
Yeah,
was. I may have been mistaken by it, but yeah, they would always sit there as like, yeah, you're a wise guy, eh, huh?
yeah,
And
like Casablanca.
yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't sit there and feel like Casablanca was that. I feel like that. Well, no. Did that
Eh,
predate this? 59? Did that predate 59?
I think
It's
so.
Humphrey
It was
Bogart, and I
like
know
the
he was
40s,
pretty big in
wasn't
the
it?
30s. Was it?
Late 40s. I think it
That's
was
right,
late
because I
40s.
think that covered the First World War, not the second.
No, I'm pretty sure it was the Second World War because there were.
Was it?
I think it was Nazi. They were doing the Nazis in North Africa. Pretty sure.
I, that's a very good question. Uh, it just says German, so maybe it could have been the First World War, because I think they're supposed to be in Morocco. Oh no, it was said during World War II. Oh, okay, so
Yeah,
you were right. I was wrong. Holy shit.
it happens.
Chris wins his battle. Chris wins the battle. Oh my
I
god.
get
But
another
yeah,
drink for that.
you get another drink for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a dry house over here at the moment, so
Uh, we'll correct
damn
that
freaking diet,
eventually.
right? You know. Uh but uh but yeah, Chris, any more final thoughts before we wrap this
No, I
up?
mean like that
Did,
covers
did,
it.
did, did we get it all? Did we get it all?
I'm pretty sure we got it all. Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, that'll do it all for today. If you have a movie that you want us to cover on this show, do send a DM and one of our socials. Chris, where can we find you on the socials?
The Zealous Slacker on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, I guess too. I don't really
I
have
thought you were about to say
stuff.
Twitter. Are you on Twitter?
I am technically, but I'm not really. I'm not really on that social media account. So,
Gotcha,
but
gotcha. And then, of course, folks, you can find me at the Gothic Storyteller on Instagram and Twitch. That's pretty much about it. I've very much limited my social media uh, because it's less of a headache. Also on TikTok, Gothic Storyteller. Don't forget to leave a review to show the support of the show, as well as join our Patreon to where you can see the video only show. Woo! Thank you guys so much again for listening to us. Don't stop watching movies.